Punewala FinCorp presents Rising India Real Hero Summit. The two-day event witnessed prolific faces from various walks of life come together in New Delhi to celebrate our country's success and the selfless unsung heroes who are making our nation a better place.
नेटवर्क 18 के एडिटर इन चीफ श्री राहुल जी जोशी और उनकी टीम के अन्य सभी सदस्य और यहाँ मौजूद मेरे सभी सम्मानित देवियों एवं सज्जनों, सबसे पहले तो मैं टीवी 18 नेटवर्क के प्रति आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ कि उन्होंने राइजिंग इंडिया कॉन्क्लेव में मुझे आमंत्रित किया है। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में ऐसा मैंने महसूस किया है कि टीवी 18 यह नेटवर्क जनता में जिस तरीके से अपनी पहुंच बढ़ाई है, दर्शकों को अपने से जोड़ा है और दर्शकों की आवाज बनकर वो उभरा है, उसके लिए टीवी 18 नेटवर्क को मैं अपनी तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं और साथ ही उन्हें भविष्य के लिए अपनी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं भी देता हूं। आज आपके माध्यम से मैं बड़ी संख्या में देश की जनता से रूबरू हो रहा हूं और इसके लिए भी मैं टीवी 18 नेटवर्क को अपनी तरफ से धन्यवाद देता हूं। सबसे पहले बात करते हैं इकॉनमी की। देश ही नहीं, पूरी दुनिया ने देखा है कि पिछले 8-9 वर्षों में हमारी इकॉनमी में बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आया है। आप सभी मॉर्गन स्टैनले के बारे में अच्छी तरह जानते होंगे और आए दिन उनकी किसी न किसी रिपोर्ट को लेकर चर्चाएं भी होती रहती हैं। इसी मॉर्गन स्टैनले ने 2013 में एक फ्रेज कॉइन किया था, फ्रेजाइल 5 इकोनॉमीज। फ्रेजाइल का मतलब आप लोग अच्छी तरह जानते हैं, जल्दी टूट जाने वाला, जल्दी बिखर जाने वाला होता है। यानी दुनिया की ऐसी इकोनॉमी जो बहुत अच्छा प्रदर्शन नहीं कर रही थी, उनके लिए यह टर्म फ्रेजाइल का यूज किया गया और उनमें एक नाम हमारे देश भारत का भी था। यानी 8-9 साल पहले भारत की इकोनॉमी कहाँ थी, किस कगार पर थी, इसका सहज रूप से आप अनुमान लगा सकते हैं। उसके बाद राजनीतिक परिस्थितियों में जिस तरीके से परिवर्तन होता है, केंद्र में हमारे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व वाली भाजपा सरकार आती है और वहीं से हमारी इकॉनमी की सूरत बदलती हुई दिखाई देने लगती है। दुनिया में आई मंदी की संभावनाओं से लेकर कोविड तक की समस्याओं से जूझते, गिरते, संभलते भारत देश की इकॉनमी आज ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव पर पहुंच चुकी है जहां यह और देशों के लिए एक इंस्पिरेशन का कारण बन सकती है। कुछ समय पहले तक भारत मोबाइल फोन्स के सबसे बड़े इंपोर्टर्स में से एक हुआ करता था। आज भारत मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में दुनिया का एक बड़ा देश बन चुका है। 2014 में जहां देश में ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्टिविटी केवल 20% थी, वह आज बढ़कर 80% पहुंच गई है। भारत में होने वाले एक्सपोर्ट एक समय $300 बिलियन पर ही ठहर गए थे, पर आज हमारे देश में होने वाला एक्सपोर्ट कल ही आपने वो फिगर देखी होगी, $750 बिलियन तक ये पहुंच चुका है। साथियों, गत वर्ष भारत ने $83.57 बिलियन का अब तक का हाईएस्ट एफडीआई इनफ्लो रिकॉर्ड किया है। अब तक का हाईएस्ट एफडीआई इनफ्लो रिकॉर्ड किया है। आप सभी जानते हैं कि जब कोई बिजनेस हाउस किसी कंट्री में इन्वेस्ट करता है तो बहुत सोच समझकर करता है और बहुत ही जांच परख कर करता है और वह देश की संभावनाओं और अवसरों को जांचने परखने के बाद ही वह इन्वेस्टमेंट करता है। ऐसे में रिकॉर्ड एफडीआई इनफ्लो हमारी इकॉनमी के लिए निश्चित ही एक पॉजिटिव सिग्नल है। साथियों, मैंने कहीं पढ़ा था कि नो पावर ऑन अर्थ कैन स्टॉप एन आइडिया whose time has come। मैं बड़े विश्वास के साथ कहना चाहता हूं कि अब वह भारत का समय आ गया है। आगे आने वाले समय में हमारा देश भारत दुनिया की मेजर इकोनॉमिक पावर में से एक नहीं बल्कि दुनिया की नंबर 1 इकोनॉमिक पावर बनकर उभरेगा, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। बहुत दिन हो गया यह कहते कहते कि अपना टाइम आएगा, अपना टाइम आएगा। आज मैं आप लोगों के सामने ये कहने के लिए खड़ा हुआ हूं कि बहनों भाइयों, अब हम लोगों का टाइम आ गया है, यानी भारत का समय अब आ गया है।
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for sharing your thoughts. Sir, I would please request you to stay on stage. Minister, sir. And I'd also invite Mr. Rahul Joshi to join the minister on stage. May I now request Rajnath ji to felicitate the real heroes in the field of agriculture. Please welcome Dr. Shiv Darshan Malik from Haryana. Dr. Shiv Darshan innovated cow dung plaster and bricks with neem to keep home 7 degrees cooler, and this has Vedic plaster and Gocrete bricks that are environment friendly and durable. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Dr. Malik. Next winner in this category. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Urgen Futsong from Ladakh, who uses innovation in routine agriculture work to grow over 20 varieties of crop. At an altitude of 14,000 feet, his farms are purely organic. I now move on to the next category of awards, and for that, may I request the Honourable Minister to felicitate the real heroes in the field of education and skill development. Welcome Mr. P.K. Muralidharan from Kerala, who along with Mr. P.V. Chinnamthampi are the men behind the Akshara Library in Kerala's forest. Mr. Chinnamthampi couldn't join us. Mr. Muralidharan is here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him. Thank you so much, Honourable Minister, for joining us, and thank you so much, Mr. Rahul Joshi.
राइजिंग इंडिया में न सिर्फ राजनीतिक चर्चाएं हो रही थी, बल्कि स्वास्थ्य की दृष्टि से भी देश भर के लोगों में जागरूकता फैलाने का प्रयास किया गया।
Heart of the matter, as a former head of the Department of Cardiology at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where we had to look after many persons with heart disease, we know that all matters of the heart all affairs of the heart are expensive, and not merely in a poetic sense, because they extract a price in terms of death, disease, disability, and also very high expenses in terms of costly care and treatments. But now there's been a question raised as to whether heart attacks are indeed very much on the rise in India, and we are seeing newspaper reports and television reports very frequently of celebrities dying of heart attacks, quite often after they've been to the gym or in the gym. And these are people who should have been considered otherwise very healthy, and most of them had not really reported any major issue related to their heart health. And therefore, when we suddenly find these kind of reports cascading into the news channels and to the newspaper reports, there is alarm that people are indeed now much more prone to heart attacks. So I've been asked to speak on, is there an epidemic of heart attacks in this country? The next question was, is it genetic or is it because of other reasons? Now, we started doing studies through the Indian Council of Medical Research funded studies in India in early 90s, and we started comparing firstly Indians in India with Indians in UK, and also Indians living in urban areas in India and living in rural areas in India to find out what these differences are. Now, it is very clear that Interheart showed that there are 9 risk factors which are common globally to all populations, including to Indians. But the levels at which Indians manifest this risk is different. We actually start expressing our risk much more, in a sense, in a severe form, even at relatively lower levels of risk factors, whether it's blood pressure or whether it is LDL cholesterol or total cholesterol or so. So the question became, is it genetic, or is there some other predisposing factor which sort of identifies why these people are at excess risk? And that is getting precipitated by our living habits, which are changing quite rapidly with modernity. So when we looked at it, it was very clear that when you compare Indians living in the UK, for example, with Afro-Caribbeans and white Caucasians living in UK, things like diabetes, fairly high deposition of fat in the abdomen, and either what's called insulin resistance, and certain abnormalities in the fat, like low levels of the protective HDL cholesterol, these and high levels of triglycerides, these appear to be particularly common among Indians. But when we started looking at urban and rural comparisons in India, then it became very clear that the conventional risk factors like high blood pressure and smoking, obesity, and high levels of serum cholesterol, they appear to explain the risk between urban and rural Indians. And now, why is it that COVID is also now supposedly causing higher amount of risk? We know that COVID triggers inflammation. As I said, inflammation is the key word. And COVID triggers inflammation throughout the body. COVID triggers blood clots in the veins as well as in the arteries. It can cause large clots to block the coronary arteries, which are supplying blood to the heart. It can also cause what are called microinfarcts in the small blood vessels of the heart. And they can also cause electrical abnormalities and lead to sudden cardiac arrest. For majority, the vast majority, the rules will apply. That if you have these risk behaviors and risk factors, you are likely to get much greater risk of heart attacks.
News 18's Rising India initiative, with the essence of promoting thought leadership at its core, focuses on acquainting the country with critical conversations, grassroots innovations, and what the future holds for us. Coming together with the sole purpose to shift the spotlight on female creators and shine the light hard on them, what's the topic of discussion titled Women's Era?
We are looking at women's era. And where do women like you find themselves in this era?
Hi, very good afternoon to one and everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And Maria, thank you for inviting me here. Where do I find myself in today's times? I think this is the best time for women to be in India. We have been progressing. We have been looking at women who can break the glass ceiling, women who have been given wings to fly, who have been given the encouragement to dream big. And we have been focusing a lot on women education and telling them that this is your time, so move ahead. There's nothing about a man or a woman. We're talking about gender equality. And most of the people agree to that it's important for women in today's times to follow her dreams.
Recently, you had spoken about being sexually abused by your father. Why did you choose to speak today? Of course, it's for any woman to decide when she wants to talk about these issues. What made Khushbu Sundar come up with that very, very personal story at this point?
It wasn't about a point. I think it's been there with me. Like I said, it stopped when I started revolting against my father, age of 15. And I think all these years, I'm 52 today. So all these years, it has been in me. And trust me, anybody who's been through kind of a sexual abuse, it remains very heavy in you. And I feel so light, I feel so comfortable that it's finally out. You don't feel that you're carrying a burden with you. And I think now is the time when we need to speak. अगर आज नहीं तो कब कब्र में लेके जाएंगे हर चीज़ अपने साथ. So I think you need to speak out. Women need to speak that what they have been through. I am late. Probably during my time, I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the support system. I didn't have the laws. I didn't have the POCSO. I didn't have NCW. I didn't have any of the kind of social support in the society what you get today. And of course, there was a lot of responsibility on me, which probably did not allow me to speak. But this is something which was within me, and I thought if I can help a lot of women to speak what they have been through, because you spread a lot of awareness, you tell people that it's okay if we have been through this kind of an abuse, because you don't have to be ashamed. You know, the problem is most of the women, they don't speak about it, because the first thing they ask is, what did you do to go through this abuse? And I think that needs to stop.
And how much of that are you implementing in your new role as National Commission for Women member?
See, I think NCW, when you look at the success rate of NCW, we have been doing great. And in fact, you know, what I go through when I go through the history of NCW, I've just assumed the office. But when you go through it, I think in 2021, we had the maximum number of cases in like almost 27,000 cases we had, and out of which 7,000 cases were about right to live with dignity. So I really like that. And of course, then you had the maximum number of, the second top rated cases were about domestic violence. But then when you talk about people who have been fighting for the right to live with dignity, it also means that they were fighting against for a clause where it says that even if you are emotionally abused. So, I mean, you see the number of cases where women are coming forward and they're filing cases. So I think it's great. It's great to be part of NCW because it gives you a larger platform to understand the problem. And you think that my problem is the biggest problem? No, it's not. My problem is probably a dot when it comes to the huge line of problems women have been still facing globally. So I think it has to start. Kehte hain na ki to draw a line, you had to start with a dot. So let this be a dot and let us start drawing a line.
So शुरुआत हो गई है.
बिल्कुल, और शुरुआत बिल्कुल सही हो रही है.
When you're telling me about this story, it's life. It's a life journey, life story. And it means a lot to talk about it. Do you often encourage your family members and other women that you meet? Because you have had a long and illustrious career as a politician, of course, as a producer, as an actor. Do you often encourage women to speak?
I always do that. I have two beautiful girls, very young girls. My older one is going to be 23 this September, and the younger one is 20 plus. And I think it's very important that you keep speaking to your child. And my daughters are like, they are enough. Matlab kehte hain na ki bahar you are a big deal, and you know people are worried and scared of you. But I become a meek cat in front of my children because my girls are so vocal. And I think one person is enough. I'm glad whenever I'm out, I'm glad that they are not around because they're enough to shred me into pieces. And they're, I mean, I speak to them. And anything right from their school days, I've been in a habit of the minute they come back home, you speak to them, what happened in school. And it's not about teaching the girl child or any child for that matter about a good touch or bad touch. I think what you need to understand is you need to strike a conversation with them, gain their confidence, and say that whatever happens, come and speak to me.
Yes.
And my daughters are very, very open about it, very vocal about it. There are times when we have political differences, but they are open about it. And we love the fact that there's a very wide and open conversation within us.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Khushbu, and it's a pleasure that, and thank you for all the effort that you made to come and participate in Rising India.
As now is the time for felicitation of the real heroes in the field of gender equality. So please welcome Ms. Babita Rajput from Madhya Pradesh. She has led over 100 women to dig through a mountain and connect a dry pond to a canal. That is the massive achievement that Babita ji has managed to garner. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Over the coming weeks, stay tuned with News18 Network as we bring you some exclusive highlights of Punewala FinCorp presents Rising India Real Heroes Summit.